See this popcorn on the walls? If you scrape it, tip 1, go thin.
Yeah.
Put the mud on thin. All your repair is after your first coat dries. We actually put some French doors in here, and I'll tell you what, unless you have a supply house, back during the whatever, what size doors were we looking for? 12-inch slabs?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we were in a pinch. Either way, we got a couple good sources now, but this is decent. Anything, I don't like doing anything under 36 inch as far as French doors. This is 40 inch. So we're actually turning this into a pantry here. Well, I think pantry, because they're gonna have a pantry over here, cabinets. So I guess it's like dual. But if you come in here, most people don't have that. Washer and dryer literally set in here before. So, wow. But they have attic access in here. And I'm not sure if there's another attic access, but here in a minute here, I want to talk about this right here, about covering this here, and this is just from our experience. So we got a kitchen. This is actually referred to as an upfit. Kitchen remodel, but when you pull your permit, it's an upfit. We always, any of the older homes, the electrical is always going to be inadequate. Especially when you get homes older than 1970. You're lucky if you get back into the 60s, you may have only 2 circuits. Now, I didn't do this at first. I used to expect our electrician to go through a little hole. Now we just open it up. You can see we cut a big old cut right here. I go high enough to where my cut seam is underneath of the upper cabinets. And there's thinking behind this. One is we only have to do 1 coat of mud here because all this is covered. Tape it, mud it, done. Backsplash going on here. I mean, we'll lightly sand it, but this essentially is done. But I don't want a seam underneath of our mud. I want good virgin drywall right there to where it's not being messed with. I want the seam below my upper portion of my cabinets. So, and here's the thing with electrical. It's 2 foot, 4 foot roll. So every time your countertop starts, an outlet needs to be within 2 feet of that, the beginning or end of it. And then 4 feet. So what we got, you can pretty much see a stove and microwave are going right here. So the countertop's going to end. It's going to start here at the stove, so I needed an outlet. We exceeded, and I actually don't like this here because we're going to end up having 2 outlets. I mean, an additional one, we're going to end up having 3. But this is just over 4 feet going from there to there. So we had to add one there. Had to have our electrician add one there. Garbage disposal, and that's going to be an outlet there. Same over here. Got an outlet going right here. And our countertop, you can see right here, I got it marked for the electrician. Here's the end of our countertop. So he knew he needed to be within 2 feet. Actually, there's going to be a pantry. It's going to run full length. And so he knew he needed an outlet within 2 feet of the end of that countertop, and he could not exceed 4 feet. So he had to have one there. So we got a couple more outlets on this backsplash, but you know, I originally was going to have him bump this one over, you know, black it over, and that way we could eliminate this, but then that's going to be in the corner. Most likely a coffee pot or something is going to go in front of it. And I just don't like a bunch of outlets. I don't want too few, and I don't want too many. But, so this is straightforward here, us mudding this. Now I'm going to get into, if you watch our channel a lot, I like talking about from a contractor's perspective of the struggles and the things we deal with. And lately I've been kind of on a rant as far as dealing with our subs, and it's been kind of difficult. And we had kind of a good day yesterday because we had an inspector that came in, and actually we had 3 fantastic inspectors, and enjoyed meeting them. And just for whatever reason, we had never met all three of these inspectors.
Well, yeah, they came on within recent months and then replaced other guys.
Yep.
So,
And so, but all of them are seniors, and what I mean by that is they've either been in the trades, so they're getting towards their retirement years, so they're doing like another 5 years till they retire. So they're not 100% green. They've been out in the field, they've been doing this work. And so I actually was talking to Framing, I call him a framing inspector, but he was a builder remodeler prior to taking this job. So we got talking about subs, and man, it was just like, we really enjoyed it because all of our frustrations we were able to get from his perspective. And that's like one of the first times I've been able to talk to somebody that sometimes when you're talking through frustrations,
other people have not experienced it.
Good to hear that other people, because you think you're the only one.
You're not the only one. All right, so we're not the only one going through these things.
No, and he totally knew. And we talked about everything. We talked about the problems here. We talked about how immigration has affected it. We had a little bit different perspective there, and I do need to do a separate video there because yeah, I don't even want to get on that right there. But and then we talked about licensed guys, unlicensed guys, subs.
Yep.
Oh man, I
toilets,
really, porta johns. And I mean, and then
contracts.
And I learned some things.
Yep.
I learned some things from him, and I could tell he was he picked up shortly after. He's like, oh, this is not these guys' first rodeo too. Getting here, so other than the drywall here, let's get back to the drywall. This right here, of course, this was the opening here, but we needed to cut it back because
back up and get the full shot.
Base, we're running full length cabinets down through here.
Bam.
And
bam.
our base was going to be 24 inches out here, so it was actually going to be into the opening. So we're giving this kitchen a lot more cabinets. Hold on here. Yeah, so it was fake business. It was potential spam, as it said. But of course, this will take more than one coat. But that's the way we do this. We always open wide open back there, so that way our electrician is, and for that matter, even our plumber back there is not confined to work through a small area. You think you're saving work by doing a little trench, you're not. Open it right up. Now here's the trick, and I taught our electricians some stuff too. So we had a couple different electricians in on this job. I told them, I was like, hey guys, you can't remove insulation. If you're doing things by code, here's a tip for you. Let's say this is open here, the existing insulation, and this in fact was R13 in here. Code for this area is R15 for new construction. If that insulation is removed, let's say it's pulled out, tipped up, that's considered removed. Per code, that is meant, you're supposed to replace that, and it's supposed to be updated to the R15. So I told our guys, I said, be very careful, do not destroy that insulation. I said, I don't want them pulled loose and whatever. And so the guys were like, well, how do we do this and this? And they said, we've never heard this. And I says, well, I said, it is. And I says, we've had a couple inspectors, bring it up. And I says, just let's treat the insulation very careful to where you're not shredding it. You're not tearing it. Let's keep that vapor barrier.
You're not smashing it to where it stays matted down. I mean, it's already matted. It's been on there for 40 years.
Yeah. So be very careful with that insulation and do not remove it out of the stud bay. And basically their thoughts is nobody's going to be here to see. And I was like, yeah, the inspectors are smarter than what you think. They can tell stuff's been removed and what hasn't. So I said, we can either cut it, slice it, do all that. And they appreciated it. They thanked me for giving that advice. But I want to talk about this in here. If they're still here, hold on here. Let me grab a drywall knife. Now this guy right here is a little bit of contention here because I love it. And Harley does not like it because he feels though we're dirtying another tool. Valid. I like it because you scrape the bucket. Come on in here. See, it fits this side of the bucket. And any of this stuff around here that dries makes for your mud being horrible. This thing needs mixed right here. Look at this right here. So it cleans that bucket right there. All right, cool. All right, I haven't shut the camera off because I lost my train of thought. But in here, when you're filling this, this had like popcorn texture, what have you. Oh, it looks like we got even a little glitter. Nice. Kind of knew when that was going on. Some guys will say that they can do this in one coat. I don't care. From our experience, your initial coat, all you're trying to do is just lock it down.
Keep it from flaking.
That's it. So, I mean, you don't even care that you're really filling anything. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself because we need to tape that first. There will be garbage in this.
And that's why your mud does not have to be the best quality either.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
It's going to be rough to start with. It's kind of like the first coat on your tape joints. It's not expected to be perfect. Especially on remodels, you get all these joints. I had one over here where, yeah, that looks wrinkled, but there's a 1/4 inch height difference or uneven plane there. So, you know, you don't always expect, you can't see this through the camera, but there's a lot of mud behind that.
Oh my goodness. That's always difficult, is going into
remodels, yeah.
Jobs that have had 4 coats of mud, and then you got a guy that's not willing to pull that joint out.
So it's bulged out.
What are you going to put? 5 coats on there?
Trying to build it out, yeah.
Now this is actually going pretty well. This one here, when I mudded earlier, that's why I grabbed the camera, that was a bear. Man, it kept coming loose. This one's going pretty decent here. It's not fighting me too much. So, guys, we're not drywallers. I mean, we can do good, but at what point? I need to grab.
I want to clarify.
At what point do you?
Hold on, I want to clarify this.
Hire somebody.
We do really good drywall compared to what I've seen 70% of guys do.
At what point do you do this work?
Versus sub it out. How much is your time worth? That's your question.
Now, with this right here, can you get somebody to come out and do it?
Right.
Is it a big enough job? Now, we'll happily do that because we're not finishing it.
Yep.
I mean, we're going to finish this thing to start to finish. We'll knock it out, and I mean, if you watch our previous videos, you can see we do a lot of drywall. It's one of the things that we are getting ourselves out of. We got ourselves out of painting. We're almost 100% out of painting. We do fantastic, but you can only be good at so many things. And the further you stretch yourself, the more you stretch yourself, the less proficient you become. I hate that word, jack of all trades. But the longer I'm around it, it makes a lot more sense because you can be really good at a lot of things, but what you'll end up being is slow in a lot of things.
Right.
And if you're going to be making money in this business, you can't be slow. So, my main thing with this video right here is I need to grab some mud here. Is as you're coating this stuff, don't try to fill it in one pass. It's a waste of time. I should have this over there. Now, Harley's wearing shorts. I told him, I was like, I ain't wearing shorts today. He's like, I got new boots on. My laces aren't coated with mud. I said, not gonna do it. Look at this. Look at this behaving. This is ridiculous. You know, if I would have done this any other time,
What?
well, like I said, the mud, this stuff was just rolling and peeling.
Yep. I dealt when I mudded this over here. I don't know if I can see it. Right here, it was all of it was somewhere there. It was just ripping off the wall on the first pass I did. Didn't even agitate it very much. It was just all flaking off. And I'm assuming that's what you were dealing with too.
So we don't know. We're still learning ourselves, and I will tell you the fact that our line of work, construction, is in a constant flow of upheaval, because one is whether or not people are either building or remodeling. That's the first thing. The second is politics. That affects it. And then whether or not there's even enough money in it to get somebody out on the job.
Yep.
So, I mean, these new electricians I hired, the first thing I did when I called them on the phone, I said, will you do remodels? And he's like, oh, yeah. I says, hey, I have to ask because I know different plumbers. Some plumbers only want to do new construction.
70% of the plumbers we've called, they straight up said no.
Nope,
We want new.
All service work. And some of them don't know. And I've had different subs ask me right off, do you pull permits? Subs, I ask them, do you pull permits? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, oh. We think that's kind of funny that they're like, find out. And they're licensed too. They're like, no, if you pull permits, they're like, that means we got to pass stuff. We're like, we can find other contractors that don't pull permits. So what's the moral of the story? If you're in this line of work, you're going to have to do small jobs. And if you're covering that stuff, put a light coat on. All right, we got a good one here. This guy just popped up, and I don't know if you can see it. You see that bubble? Can you see it? It's kind of separated there. Okay. So here's my 2 cents on this, because, and once again, this is why it's so good to do a skim coat on drywall like this. Skim coats will allow you to identify anywhere where the papers came loose. Now, this is in a closet or a pantry or whatever, and that's going to get coated again. That drywall mud is going to shrink, pull it right back in. It's going to be perfectly fine. Now, if this was in another area of the kitchen, let's say let's say it was on one of these walls out here that are exposed, that would be getting dug out and repaired. But since where it is, guys, it's going to be perfectly fine. This is going to 100% shrink in there. We're going to cut it again. Possible that it may lift again when the new wet mud hits the other. It may come out again, and it may even lift when you paint it. But trust me when I say this, it will always shrink and go right back in. Now,
if you're using normal mud.
If you're using normal mud. Now that is valid. We're not big people as far as using the quick set or the hot mud. We call that hot trash is what it is, but we just don't use the stuff. There's another tip for you. Mud. You got a couple joints to tape.
I had to do some joints, yep.
There, and I'll finish skim coating it. So
Yeah.
This is life as a remodeler. See?